Imagine a place where crowds gathered to witness the suffering of others. In the heart of Rome, the Colosseum stood as a stage of brutality, where the empire demonstrated its power with bloody spectacles. But one day, something completely unexpected happened there, something that changed the lives of everyone present. Did you know that the Apostle John, one of Jesus' closest followers, was sentenced to an unthinkable execution? He was thrown into a cauldron of boiling oil, a sentence no one could survive. The smell of hot oil permeated the air, and the audience waited anxiously for the screams of agony. However, instead, he witnessed a miracle. Today, we will explore not only how JUAN survived this terrifying moment, but also what this story has to teach us about faith, courage, and overcoming. This ancient narrative carries profound lessons that continue to resonate today. And believe me, they can transform your life. Before getting to this dramatic event, it is important to understand who John was. He was not just an ordinary man. His story begins in a small fishing village in Galilee, but his journey would lead him to become one of the greatest examples of unshakable faith. Alongside Jesus, John saw miracles, heard lessons that changed his perspective, and most of all, learned the meaning of love and compassion. Why did the Roman Empire, so powerful, fear a simple follower of Christ so much? What was so special about John that made him a target for the cruelest rulers of the time? The answer to these questions goes beyond politics or religion. It is rooted in the strength of a faith that could not be destroyed, not even by fire or oil. And as we tell this story, I invite you to reflect on your own life. Have you ever faced challenges that seemed impossible? Have you ever felt like you were in a cauldron from which there was no way out? Maybe this is the story you needed to hear to find inspiration and hope in difficult times. Throughout this video, we will reveal the details of this incredible narrative, unveiling how JUAN survived and why his faith was the decisive factor. Get ready to dive into a journey that goes beyond the limits of human understanding and discover how this story can illuminate even the darkest moments of your journey. If this has already touched your heart, don't forget to stay with us until the end. You may emerge transformed from this experience, just like the audience who witnessed that miracle at the Colosseum. Before we continue, I wanted to ask you something important. Most people who watch our videos are not yet subscribed to the channel. If you like this content and want to help us bring more inspiring stories like this, subscribe now and leave your like. This makes all the difference so that the channel continues to grow and reach more people. We count on you. The day was one of anticipation in Rome. The Colosseum was full, with men, women, and even children waiting for a cruel spectacle. At that time, the Roman Empire dominated much of the known world, and its strength was displayed not only in battles, but also in public punishments designed to intimidate anyone who dared challenge its authority. Among these punishments, few were as terrifying as being thrown into a cauldron of boiling oil. The Apostle John was at the center of this scenario. He had been accused of treason for refusing to worship the emperor as a god and for continuing to preach a message that shook the foundations of the empire. Jesus Christ was the true Lord. This direct challenge to the established order led to John being taken to the Colosseum for a public execution. But what happened that day left everyone perplexed. Before we delve deeper into the miracle, it is important to understand the historical context. During the reign of Emperor Domitian, between the 80s and 90s of the 1st century, the persecution of Christians reached a new level. Domitian demanded that he be worshipped as a deity, and those who refused to comply with this order were treated as enemies of the state. Christians like John represented a threat, not because they wielded weapons, but because their faith and message of hope gained strength among the people, weakening imperial authority. John, one of the last living apostles at the time, was a respected and inspiring figure within the Christian community. His closeness to Jesus and his role as leader made his capture a symbolic blow to the empire. When sentenced to death in the Colosseum, Domitian's objective was clear: to send a message to the people that the Christian faith would not be tolerated. However, what occurred at the moment of execution was something that not even the most powerful of emperors could predict. When John was thrown into the cauldron of boiling oil, everyone expected screams of pain and immediate death. But to the shock of spectators, none of that happened. The apostle remained unharmed, standing inside the cauldron. The crowd, who initially yearned for a bloody spectacle, found themselves in front of a miracle. Silence took over the Colosseum. Many fell to their knees, interpreting the event as a direct manifestation of God's power. The boiling oil, which was supposed to destroy John's body, did not touch him. Instead, the apostle remained serene, his eyes fixed on the sky, radiating a peace that transcended human understanding. This event echoes stories from the Old Testament, such as that of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who survived a fiery furnace for their faith. Just as God protected them, he also demonstrated his power through John. For the Christians present, it was proof that their faith was true and that God was with them, even in their darkest moments. Domitian, fearing that the miracle would further strengthen John's influence, decided to exile him to the island of Patmos. There, John would continue his mission, receiving the vision that would become the Book of Revelation, one of the most impactful works in the Bible. This story teaches us that faith has the power to sustain us, even in the face of the most extreme challenges. John trusted God completely, knowing that no matter what happened to his body, his soul was safe. And it was this unshakable faith that transformed the cauldron of oil into a testimony to divine power. The story of the Apostle John in the Colosseum is more than a demonstration of divine power. It is also a portrait of perseverance in the face of the greatest adversities a human being can face. Perseverance, in this case, is not just physical resistance, but a spiritual and emotional strength anchored in faith. To fully understand the impact of this virtue, it is essential to explore what it means to persevere and how John became a timeless example of this concept. JUAN knew what was at stake. He was not a man blind to the danger or cruel reality of the Roman Empire. However, his decision to remain faithful to God, even in the face of death, reveals the depth of his trust. Persevering for JUAN was not just resisting, it was to hold firm to its mission of sharing the message of love, redemption, and hope, even when all seemed lost. John's perseverance is rooted in his journey with Jesus. Before becoming the apostle of love, he was known for his explosive temper, to the point of being called by Jesus, Son of Thunder. However, his coexistence with the Master completely transformed him. He learned that perseverance is not about brute strength or obstinacy, but about the ability to move forward, trusting in something greater than yourself. This lesson was put to the test, not only at the time of his failed execution in the Colosseum, but throughout his entire life. After surviving the boiling oil, John was exiled to the island of Patmos, a punishment intended to silence him. Patmos was a barren, inhospitable place, far from the Christian communities he helped lead. Many would have succumbed to loneliness and despair, but John turned that isolation into an opportunity to hear God's voice. It was there that he wrote the Book of Revelation, a work full of visions and messages of hope for Christ's followers. What made John persevere? In one word, purpose. He understood that his life was not limited to earthly circumstances. His mission was greater than temporary suffering. He trusted that even in exile or in the face of death, God was in control of his journey. This realization gave him the strength he needed to endure adversity with courage and grace. Now think about how these concepts can apply to your life. We all face moments when difficulties seem insurmountable. It could be a financial problem, an unexpected illness, or even an irreparable loss. Perseverance is not the absence of fear or suffering, but the determination to keep moving forward, trusting that there is a greater purpose in each experience. Today, studies show that people who find meaning in their adversities are more likely to overcome challenges. Psychologists call this purpose-based resilience. This doesn't mean that problems disappear, but that the way we face them can change everything. John's example reminds us that persevering is possible, even when everything seems lost. When we face our own cauldrons, we can find strength in the knowledge that we are not alone. Just as God was with John, He is with us every step of our journey. Persevering in the end is believing that even in the greatest adversity, there is light ahead. If this story is touching you in some way, take the opportunity to like this video and subscribe to the channel. These simple actions help us continue sharing messages like this and reach even more people. Your support is essential. The story of the Apostle John in the Colosseum is more than an account of miraculous survival. She invites us to reflect on the essence of hope and the transformative power of faith, even in the darkest circumstances. John was not only spared the cauldron of boiling oil, he emerged from that event as an even more powerful and inspiring figure to those around him. This transformation was not only physical, but also spiritual and emotional. Hope is something we all seek in times of difficulty. It's that invisible thread that drives us to move forward, even when the situation seems to offer no way out. In John's case, hope was not based on human probabilities. He knew that no matter how terrible the suffering, his trust was in God. This trust was the basis of his hope, which transcended logic and fear. But hope alone does not transform. For it to generate change, it needs to be accompanied by action and faith. John demonstrated this clearly, not only when he faced the death sentence, but also in his life after the miracle. He did not allow exile on the island of Patmos to silence him. Instead, he transformed that isolation into a period of deep spiritual connection, receiving and recording the visions that would form the book of Revelation. This is a powerful example of how challenging moments can become opportunities for growth and transformation. JUAN's transformation throughout his journey is something that deserves to be highlighted. He started out as an impetuous young man with an intense temper, but his walk alongside Jesus shaped him into an apostle of love and compassion. This transformation did not happen overnight. It was the result of years of learning, of witnessing miracles, and of internalizing the teachings of Christ. We can apply this to our own lives. We often face moments that seem unbearable, as if we were in our own cauldron. However, it is in these moments that we can choose to transform ourselves. Hope gives us the strength to endure, but it is the decision to trust in something greater that allows us to grow from these experiences. For the spectators who witnessed John's miracle, the event was more than an act of God. He has become a symbol that the impossible can become possible. Many people who were there in the Colosseum, expecting a spectacle of pain, left with renewed faith. They saw, with their own eyes, that God was present even in the most desperate situations. Today, that message is still powerful. We all face challenges, whether emotional, financial, or spiritual. And, like John, we have the choice to allow these moments to break us or transform us. True transformation comes when we accept that we are not alone and that there is a greater purpose in our struggles. So the question is, how can you use your struggles as a catalyst for transformation? Like John, you can find hope in the most difficult circumstances and allow your faith to guide you into a new reality. Remember, the same strength that sustained John in that cauldron is available to you. The choice to trust and transform is in your hands. Imagine the impact of witnessing a moment as extraordinary as what happened at the Colosseum. Witnessing John's survival was not just seeing a miracle, but experiencing living proof that true faith can defy even the most destructive forces. This story is not just about the Apostle John, it's about us, about how we face life's inevitable struggles. The cauldron of boiling oil that was supposed to spell the end of John turned into a declaration of spiritual victory. This transformation was not only physical, but also symbolic. What seemed like the end point of their journey became a new beginning, a powerful message that faith can triumph over any adversity. But the true essence of this narrative is not survival itself. It's in John's attitude towards suffering. He did not try to resist with physical force, nor did he beg for mercy before the rulers. Her unwavering calm, her trust in God, and her acceptance that there was a greater purpose in her pain are what truly define the power of this story. And here is the question that challenges us. How do we face our own challenges? JUAN's cauldron may seem distant, but we all have our moments of difficulty, where circumstances seem to consume us. The message that echoes from this story is clear. No matter the size of the adversity, there is strength and hope for those who choose to trust. Transformation and faith are not just biblical concepts, but realities that we can live daily. When we see our struggles as opportunities to grow, we learn that we are not defined by our defeats, but by how we choose to move forward. And like John, we can emerge stronger, with a renewed faith that not only sustains us, but also inspires those around us. As we close this journey through John's testimony, I leave you with a question to reflect on. What will you do with the challenges you face? Will you only see pain in them, or will you use them as stepping stones to something greater? The choice is yours. Before we finish, I want to make a special invitation. If you like this content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. This is very important so that we can continue to bring you relevant and inspiring stories. And there's more. Don't stop here. Click on the next video appearing on your screen now and continue discovering life-changing stories. I'm sure you will be surprised. May you carry with you John's courage and, more importantly, the certainty that the same God who sustained him is also with you. Thank you for following us here. May your journey be guided by the light of faith.